SCP-4666. You wouldn't know he was in your house until the temperature dropped, and by then it's already too late. SCP-4666 doesn't break in, he enters. Silent, barefoot, and impossibly tall, with milky white skin and eyes like empty sockets, he moves through homes like a draft of death itself. The Foundation named him the Yule Man after discovering he only appears during the winter solstice, specifically in families with children. But that name is misleading. There's no joy, no myth, no twisted Santa Claus in this figure. What SCP-4666 brings is an event, an annual sequence of horror they call a Weissnacht. The pattern always starts the same: footprints in the snow, doors left ajar, toys rearranged. Then the children report seeing a tall man watching from the edge of their rooms. The second stage is worse. Entire families found mutilated, children missing, no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, just the body count and the same horrible gifts left behind. Crudely made toys, assembled from the remains of victims. Teeth, bones, hair, scraps of human flesh, turned into dolls and figurines. What's most terrifying isn't that he does it, but how long he's been doing it. The first documented Weissnacht goes back to 1488. Paintings, woodcuts, even written accounts describe the same creature. Same appearance, same pattern, no aging, no deviation. No one knows what he wants. No one knows how to stop him. And the worst part, you might not even be the one he came for. Diana Walter. She isn't a shadow, she's what's hiding inside it. Diana Walter started as a girl with a rare condition that made light her enemy, but what began as a medical mystery ended with something far worse. A failed experiment that vaporized her body and left behind a spirit that doesn't just haunt, it clings, not to places, but to people. Specifically, one person, Sophie. When Diana was alive, she manipulated Sophie like a puppet, breaking her emotionally and physically just to stay close. After death, she didn't vanish. She evolved. Her form became darkness itself, only visible when the lights go out. And as long as Sophie stayed mentally fragile, Diana stayed present. If Sophie took her meds, Diana weakened. It was that simple and that horrifying. She isn't just a ghost. She's a force of possessive obsession. She murders anyone trying to pull Sophie away from her. Husbands, cops, even children. And she doesn't need knives or guns. Her tools are silence, speed, and the pitch black corners of your house. Bullets can't touch her. Light is the only thing that can. In the end, Sophie realized that to end Diana, she had to end herself. One bullet and the shadow that had been ruining her life for decades turned to ash. Diana isn't memorable because she's powerful. She's terrifying because she proves that sometimes your worst enemy is the thing that says it loves you most. Zalgo. Zalgo isn't whispered about because he hides. He's feared because everything starts breaking the second his name shows up. Fonts collapse, faces melt, reality stutters. He's not just a monster from the internet, he's what happens when a meme catches a virus from the void. Originally born from corrupted webcomics and internet jokes, Zalgo quickly outgrew his digital cage. He doesn't crawl, he infects. Characters lose their limbs, grow writhing black tentacles, speak in static and screams. Their eyes drip tar, their language collapses, and once the glitch takes hold, it spreads, slow, unstoppable, and cruelly aware. But Zalgo isn't just chaos for chaos's sake. He's mythic, described as holding a dead star in one hand and a candle that sheds darkness in the other. His image is equal parts demonic god and digital disease. He lives in a palace of tortured glass, is served by monsters molded from grief, and he's supposedly sealed behind a thin glass wall inside all of us, just waiting for the crack. There's no real way to stop him. Weapons don't matter. Prayers don't reach him. Even sealing him requires the kind of moral purity humanity's never had. The best hope, maybe he forgets you exist. Zalgo's not after a soul, he's after all of it. Your story, your rules, your world, and once he shows up, it's not a fight, it's an unraveling. He comes, and when he does, everything else stops making sense. The Empty Man. You don't summon the Empty Man by accident. You decide to bring him in, and that's the first mistake. This isn't just a ghost or a demon. The Empty Man is an idea wrapped in flesh, a whisper that metastasizes into hallucination, violence, and collapse. Once he's been called, he doesn't stalk or chase. He corrodes. Thoughts turn into voices. Familiar faces feel wrong, and even your own memories start to rot from the inside out. In 1995, it began with a whistle and a fall into a skeleton-filled cavern in Bhutan. By the time anyone realized what had been awakened, a woman had murdered her friends, a man had become a shell, and the totem in the cave had marked its first vessel. That vessel, Paul, was just a prototype. Years later, James Lasombra was created to be perfect. Literally created, as in fabricated from nothing by a cult that worships the empty man as a god. When James realizes he's a tulpa, an artificial person born from pain, he tries to resist, but it's too late. The entity inhabits him, erases Paul, and finally crosses into our world, using James like a human key. The worst part? You think it's over, but the Pontifex Society is still out there, building more vessels, sharpening the idea, refining the infection. The empty man wasn't a one-time event. He was just the first chapter of whatever's coming next, and once you know he exists, he already knows your name. And if you're still hearing that whisper after the video ends, you might want to subscribe before it gets louder. The Beast. You don't meet the Beast the way you meet other monsters. You hear of him first, from whispers, songs, and warnings etched in fear, and by the time you do see him, it's already too late. The Beast isn't some creature that chases you down with claws and fangs. His weapon is despair, and his favorite victims are the ones who've already started giving up. He doesn't roar, he sings. He doesn't fight. He waits for you to fall apart, and when you do, he's there with a deal, a lantern, and a smile that never shows. He lives in the unknown, a forest where lost souls turn into trees, feeding the flame of a lantern he claims holds someone's daughter, or maybe just himself. He'll tell you it's mercy. He'll convince you it's the only way, that you're tired, and that you've already lost, and sometimes that's all it takes. He lied to the woodsman for years, made him burn trees that were once children, all while whispering about hope. But the Beast doesn't want hope. He wants surrender. And the second you start listening, the longer you stay lost. He doesn't scream when he's defeated, he begs. Because for all the terror he causes, he's just another shadow terrified of being extinguished. The Beast isn't horrifying because of what he does. He's horrifying because of what he makes you believe. Motor. Most people fear getting lost in the woods. Motor is the reason some never come back. She's no legend whispered by locals. She's a towering Jotun, born of Loki, living in the frozen forests of northern Sweden. With antlers like broken branches and a body that barely fits between trees, she doesn't just watch from the dark. She chooses who belongs there, and she makes sure they don't leave. Grief is her compass. She latches onto those carrying pain, drawing them deeper until they're not sure if they're running from something or remembering it. The people she finds don't always die. Some become followers. They worship her, serve her, and get rewarded with a form of immortality that looks more like slow rotting. Their skin grays, their eyes glaze, and yet they stay loyal, but anyone who disobeys? Gone. Motor doesn't charge at you with noise and fury. She waits, watches, learns. Maybe it's a voice you trust or a shape you think you know until it steps closer, and it's her. That moment of false relief? That's all you get. Sometimes the worst part isn't the damage itself. It's knowing you were chosen because of it. Like something out there looked straight through you, saw every crack, and said, perfect. Motor isn't guarding the forest. She is the forest. And if you've seen her once, you're already part of the story she's still writing. The Intruder. Everything seems normal at first. No static, no flicker, not even a glitch to hint that something's wrong. Just an ordinary screen doing what it's supposed to until it quietly stops. And then he's there. Not with a crash or a sudden movement, but with a silence that feels louder than anything. He doesn't move. He doesn't need to. He's tall, unnaturally still, and unmistakably wrong, like something pretending to be human and failing just enough for you to notice. And his face, it's not a face at all, just a pixelated blur that somehow locks eyes with you anyway. Born from the analog horror series The Mandela Catalog, the Intruder isn't a ghost or a demon. He's something designed to make you question what's real. Through corrupted emergency broadcasts and altered instructional tapes, he teaches children how to let him in. Not with magic words or doors left unlocked, but through fear itself. The Intruder doesn't need to use force. He leans on suggestion, wrapping his words in a calm, false kindness that slowly pulls people into isolation and helplessness. His victims aren't dragged away screaming. They're gently convinced to move toward him, step by step, as if it were their own choice. Sometimes it's a scared child who's been taught to trust the screen. Sometimes a lonely adult who can't look away from a strange and lingering broadcast. And through it all, he simply waits, silent, patient, until someone finally breaks. You see someone you know, a face you've trusted your whole life, but something's off. Not enough to run, just enough to hesitate, and that's all he needs. In the Mandela catalog, reality doesn't break, it bends quietly until you can't tell the difference between memory and mimicry. He's not hunting you, he's already in the house. And this time, the call isn't coming from inside, it's coming from your reflection. The moon. Some monsters don't rely on claws or screams, just a screen and the right signal. The moon from Local 58 doesn't chase or speak, and it never even needs to appear in full. Instead, it slips into homes through hijacked broadcasts and distorted emergency alerts, quietly using illusion and suggestion to guide humanity toward its own destruction. The very first message it delivers isn't just disturbing, it's suicidal. A fake presidential announcement calmly instructs families to kill themselves and their children, promising courage and peace on the other side. It even dares to claim this message will repeat until there is none to read it. And it does repeat. From children's programming tainted by grotesque cartoons to night skies weaponized through disinformation. The moon plays a long game. One moment it's hiding in a 1920s skeleton cartoon. The next it's rebranding air raid warnings as invitations to gaze up. Even the GPS isn't safe, steering victims off roads and into traps simply for looking. Every encounter with it ends the same way. Confusion, chaos, and overwhelming fear. This isn't just an alien entity, it's a manipulative god that feeds off attention. And when the camera finally captures its decaying, flesh-like surface, all that's left is silence. A single word, rejoice, and the sound of thousands screaming into the void. It doesn't want to be worshipped, it wants you to surrender your mind. And if these creatures felt a little too real, good. That's the point. Because the darkest horrors don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes they wait inside the stories we chose to tell. Thanks for watching. Stay strange.